All right, welcome to the Pacific Town Hall. This is a bi-weekly event that happens every 2 weeks at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is a community-led Cardano and Catalyst conversation group. So if you have topics that you want to talk about, feel free to let us know. If Jeremy can share the form link, we have a form where you can actually submit topics that you would like to propose for our meetups. We do like it when people come up with their own ideas and want to share things about what's going on in the community. So definitely do contribute. And then tonight we have a special guest. We have Chris from Regenerating Sonora joining us. And just a little short intro. Christopher is the founder of Regenerating Sonora, a nonprofit engaged in regenerative neighborhood development. Prior to that, he spent 12 years in SaaS and helped shape culture and business development processes as an early employee of a tech startup, which turned into a billion-dollar company. Chris is a team member of the Blockchain Learning Center and is a board member of the Center for Shamanic Education and Exchange, and is a student and practitioner of various wisdom traditions. Very exciting. Good to have you here, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nori, and it's good to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to share with y'all today.
And I'm on a couple of common mailing lists with Chris, and he just shared a Sonora update video, and I thought it was super interesting, so I thought it'd be really cool for him to share what he's been up to. So yeah, take it away, Chris.
Right on. Awesome. Yeah, I think the theme for this conversation will be around the bridging of the Web3 world with the world on the ground. And we'll use that in the context of the project that we have going on here in Superior, Arizona. And just to give you some context, I'm going to show you where this is on the map so we can all have an image in our mind. So we're a global group here, right? So within the United States, we have a number of bioregions. One of them is the Sonoran Desert, or the Sonora bioregion. And within that bioregion is this arbitrary borders called Arizona, the state of Arizona. And within that, there is a watershed known as the Queen Creek watershed. And that's in this place that we call Superior, Arizona. That's the town that I live in. I'm a 5th generation community member here. So my great grandparents, all the way to me, have lived here. And zooming in here so you can see, it's an ex-mining town. We're about a 2,800 person town, about 70% Hispanic, low income. Our federal government has this notion of opportunity zones where low income and under-resourced communities are. And so we're technically an opportunity zone in our community. So I'm zooming in here to where the main project is that we have going on right now. Now, this has not been updated in some time, so you can't see the work that we've done, but you can see a burnt down building here. You see a burnt down building over here. Across the street used to be the old morgue back in the day. And then if we just zoom out a little bit further, you can see all this right here. It might not look like much, but it's actually mine tailings from when this used to be a copper mine. So this is all mine waste here. And you can see the scars in the land go quite a ways. So this is a bit of the context of the work that we're doing. And it's very grassroots. And so let me go ahead and, oh, and by the way, here's a street view of what we're going to be looking at. Doesn't look like this anymore, but this is what we started with. And I'll show you a quick video here so you can see a little bit about what we're up to.
On a Sunday afternoon, couldn't get away too soon.
I'm very animated.
place I like to be instead of moving down a crowded avenue. Anything we like to do. There's always lots of things that we can see. We can be anyone we'd like to. All those happy people we could meet on a Sunday afternoon. Really couldn't get away too soon. No, 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 no. We'll keep on spending sunny days this way. We're gonna talk and laugh our time away. I feel it coming closer day by day. Life will be ecstasy. You and me endlessly on a Sunday afternoon. Really, that's not hallucinating. Couldn't get away too soon. No, 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 no. Ooh, ooh,
Well, thanks for watching that with me. So you probably noticed a few different interesting things in there. Just curious, does anything stand out that you noticed in this talk so far, or in this video? Anything seem curious or interesting, or?
It mentioned a layer. What is that?
Ah, that is a good one. Okay, well, we'll definitely get into that one. Thank you, Nori. Cool. Any other things that you want to make sure that we talk about?
I would love to hear about the genesis of the idea and the goals around it.
Nice.
And since this is a Cardano meetup, the blockchain connection, and how do you connect blockchain with on the ground, boots on the ground initiatives?
Nice. Good, okay. Yeah, if there's no other questions, then we'll get right into it. So let me stop screen for a moment. I'll share a couple things about those points that you made, Nori. So Regenerating Sonora, we are focused on neighborhood regeneration. You saw a bit about how we're doing that with the project that we have there on the ground. And there's been a number of things that we've tried in the beginning to see what would catalyze, no pun intended, that would be the right kind of work for us to do. And there's a few different learnings that we've made along the way, like working with a collaborative group and wanting to do things in a decentralized and distributed way, even if we're not using blockchain, just using some of those principles is pretty key to what we're doing. And as I'm sure most of you know, that comes with its own challenges. Sometimes it feels like it's easier to just just start doing something on your own. Oh, let me just do it. I'll just do this and move the progress forward. But long term, that's not always going to be the best solution. And so it's important to work with people and come up with collective goals that emerge out of being together and having a deep connection with people that you work with on a regular basis. It's important to have your own, have your squad, the squad that you're going to work with. And so for us here in Superior, we have a group of us who like to hang out just because we enjoy being around each other, and we have a shared interest in supporting our own community. And so that became the ground for which we were going to work together. And we found out about this inventor named Ed Williams out in Phoenix, who is doing work with these Lear gardens, standing for linking ecosystems and hardware for regeneration It's this growing system that turns wood chips into highly bioavailable soil. And we'll talk more about what that, how that works and what that looks like. But we wanted to start putting these in our own community. And if you saw in the video, there was a documentary team that came and filmed us because they heard that we were using cryptocurrency. And it was almost like they were like saying, wow, there's an on the ground community who's using cryptocurrency. We don't know, we haven't heard of many of these, so they wanted to come and film us. So how are we using cryptocurrency and what's that connection? Well, we're working on this project, as I mentioned, and we wanted to track our time to ensure that we can properly account for contributions. So let me share our Discord link so you can see how we're doing this, because you got to think, you know, the people that I'm working with in my own community, I'm kind of the oddball that's all into the Web3 crypto stuff. And most of the people I know in my community are not that way. And that's okay. If we can find the right way to track things and to use the ethos of what Web3 is about, then we thought that might make a difference in being able to start to coordinate globally with some of these efforts that are going on. So let's see if you can see my screen here. Y'all looking at my Discord now?
Yep.
All right. So we have a server, Regenerative Technology. So within our community, there's a global aspect to it, and then there's a local aspect to it. So Queen Creek Watershed, like I mentioned before, is where we're doing a lot of our work. And so here we can see what Miguel did yesterday. So here he puts pictures. This is his proof of work. And then he put in what he did and how long he worked for. And so you can just see that we have this going on throughout the projects that we're doing. So all we have to do then is, we're not asking people to load stuff into anything highly technical. It's just take a picture, put in the amount of time that you spent doing the work and what the work was about. You might have also noticed that we have lunar cycles that we work off of to track our goals. There's someone that I heard once called the moon almost like a progress bar in the sky. Because if you set your goals to say what you want to have accomplished by the next new moon, then you can always see how far away you are. Like we're coming up to a full moon soon. So it'd be good if we're going to have our goals associated with the lunar cycle, it would be at least halfway towards our goals or more by the time that full moon does come around. And so that's what we do as a team. We come together, we decide what goals we want to have set and have realized by the time that next new moon comes around. And then we all have a way of having a nice pacing around how much time we have to hit those goals. Now, what we do with each lunar cycle then is we take all of this information here and we put it into a spreadsheet. So here you can see, we just have to do this at the end of the lunar cycle. Here you can see examples of how we have a number of data points here, including the proof of work, right? And this is just that image like we talked about before. Now, once we have this,
We're
what's
still
interesting,
seeing your Discord.
oh, geez, thank you so much. Me and screen sharing. Here we go. Now you should see a spreadsheet. All right, thank you. So in here, you can see the proof of work, as it were, is just the image, right? And then the amount of time that we spent doing the work and what the task was that we were actually doing. Now, once we have it into this format, what becomes interesting is our on-the-ground community doesn't have to be deeply involved in Web3, but we now have a way to start to interface with global efforts that are taking place while we're doing our local work here. So an example would be, we've been talking with Little Fish, and from what they've shared with us is that our community is essentially Little Fish ready, in the sense that each one of these line items here can be turned into an NFT. As Little Fish has their current system, we'd like to see that one day each one of these items can be an NFT, be sold, and fund further actions that we're doing. So it's not only that, but once we have this set up, we can track contributions. We have this wild idea that says people should get compensated for supporting their community. I mean, in fact, I say that one of the premises that I hold is that if we can't make it pay to do good in the world, then we might be doomed. So we want to start normalizing this idea that we're not just volunteers getting paid nothing to do this work, especially in a low income community like mine, and many others in the world have this same struggle. They are working on the mission and they're forgetting about the fact that they should be compensated as well. And so we're doing that through Giveth. What's up, Melanie?
She's got her hand up. She must have a question.
Yeah, I put
for
my
you.
hand up. Sorry, I just snuck in under the wire. How did you come up with the rate? And in your spreadsheet, I see paid ? And it says no, 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 no. How's that going for you? How's that? Because it's one thing to have the idea and another thing to actually do it.
Yes, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Taurus as a wallet, but yeah, I see some notes here. It sucks. I mean, the truth is this platform that we use, Giveth, is the main one that we're using to accept payments right now. And so you can see we had a payment on the 4th and for $22.11. Awesome, that's great. One of the challenges that we have, and you can see these are in Give token, some are in USDC. Currently, Giveth is not set up or enabled to accept ADA. So our platform could potentially be receiving cryptocurrencies of all sorts, including ADA, if the work was done on the back end to make that possible. But the challenge that we have right now is we're using this wallet called Taurus, which is supposed to be great for accepting all kinds of different cryptocurrencies, but we're having some challenges with it right now. We've sent some payments and they've just gone into the ether. So, we've held off on this until we can be confident that we can get some of these issues resolved that are open items currently, because we don't want to repeat that problem. These are funds that we want to see get into the hands of our community members, not like lost into the ether. So I would love to see.
I did look at the site and they said that 100% goes to the work party. So, again, you're trusting a platform to be transparent, but are they transparent? So it'd be great to see this built on Cardano for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And obviously, like people have mentioned, like there's a lot of opportunities to move some of this from spreadsheet into something that's more automated. I'm sure that's the case. I think that one thing that we're always sensitive to is creating any kind of additional formalization always starts to create rubs within a group like mine, who they're not all that interested in using and downloading a bunch of different things in the phone, right? But Discord for communication and for logging their time in a channel, easy. So if we can keep it simple, then we're being contextually appropriate with our participation. And that's one of the keys that we're looking for.
And basically at this point, people are, as far as getting people to help, do you put a job list out or task list, or people just jump in and do it?
People just jump in and do it. Yeah, like when you're a small community of 2,800 people, like everyone knows everybody. In fact, like this notion of neighborhood development is like an interesting concept, because you might have to ask the question, like, what's a neighbor? Like, how do you define a neighbor? And if my memory serves me correctly, a neighbor is something like someone who you see on a regular basis when you're going about your day where you live. And so that pretty much means that everyone in our community is a neighbor. So that makes it pretty organic to have conversations with people who want to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
I'll show you a few other things here, but before we do that, Mr. Yoon.
I had a quick question. So how do you verify proof of work? I mean, like, is there any verification process whereby someone actually checks that this person worked for 2 hours instead of 1 hour? Or, when they're taking pictures, they're not taking, pictures of work that's done by someone else? So how do you kind of avoid that kind of situation?
There's a twofold thing. One is, when we think about the local scale that we're at, it's like we all know everybody. So there's already like this inherent trust that's there. So It's interesting when people talk about decentralized autonomous organizations, they talk about them being trustless, when really I think what we're all discovering is that they're really trustful, that really you build a community around people who you trust and have the right kinds of systems in place as they're needed. So the one thing that we do have beyond the fact that we all know each other and know everyone in the community is we do track whether this work was done by one individual without anyone else being there or with other people. So anytime there's a solo work party, it means that implicitly there is that kind of risk that they could have done that. Now, if it's a standard work party, like in this case, you can see that myself, Miguel, and Mary Martha, we all worked at the same time. So essentially, you have two other people that can vouch for the work that's being done. But that's just a loose thing. There's no technical solution here for us. And for us, it doesn't really need to be. But if you're talking about a much larger scale, then maybe you would. Yeah, good question.
Pete had some great suggestions in the chat. Maybe you could talk about those, Pete, because that's something that people need to know about or could know about, right? As far as payments, because maybe there's a way to bypass this altogether and go straight into some other form of accounting.
Yeah, I'd be totally open to hearing. I'm just trying to track it now on your chats here, Pete, but if you'd like to chime in, please do.
Sorry, that took a while. Okay. If you build your website on WordPress or one of the open source content management systems, there's lots of options for payment gateways now. So early in 2021, Adam Dean put together the Mercury. So it accepts ADA directly. I've been using Now Payments, and Now Payments is a nice one. It accepts all sorts of different cryptocurrencies. And it does like a conversion for you as well. So like you may need to, I was using it for a t-shirt merchandise shop. So I had to keep some of it in USD so I could pay those suppliers. So it does that conversion straight away for you. So you don't have the fluctuating price. And then the rest of it, you can keep in whatever cryptocurrency you want. It also does like if your t-shirt price or your donation price is in USD, it'll do the conversion over to the cryptocurrency that you're trying to accept as well. So it does still smart things like that. And then I haven't tried the ones by Ada Pay from Coty yet, but it's all part of their Ada Payments network. And they've built one for 3 different CMSs, Joomla, WordPress on WooCommerce, and then one more, which I can't remember off the top of my head. So lots of options there for you if you want to bypass that whole Giveth one that you're doing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that what we want to have is just as many options as possible, right? So the Giveth function is good because it has like a whole community ecosystem associated with it. So people find out about it and find out about us through it. But let's say for folks in the Cardano community right now, no one can, if you were sympathetic to our cause, you couldn't support us by giving us some ADA anyway. So having that kind of capability enabled within our site would be very helpful. So I did not know about that function or what they're doing. So thanks for saying that, Pete.
And do you have a WordPress website?
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that makes it easier, isn't it, Pete?
There's us.
Yep. Sorry, there. Just put it in there now.
Sorry.
Too.
I'm pressing the wrong buttons. You think I'd know what to do, but it didn't look like a WordPress site. But if you did have a WordPress site, then you can control and do whatever you want with how you execute things. But like if it's like a if the Giveth one is part of their platform, which it sounds like it is because it's part of their ecosystem, then you're kind of stuck with that, because then you have that their network where other users can find what you're trying to do. So it's a big benefit there. But if you set up like a landing page, a little microsite just purely for the Ada Cardano community, then they can do their payments directly that way. Will be 2 separate sites, but your main one on Giveth, and then the separate one just as a lead-in page for anyone that's in the Cardano ecosystem that wants to feed something through. it shouldn't take long to set up, maybe like a couple of hours, really something really basic, using pre-made themes. So anyone could really set it up.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for that. And I think I'll take you saying that it didn't look like a WordPress site as a compliment, because it is, but I appreciate you saying that, because now we have some ways that we can increase our capabilities. Yeah, Melanie.
It's a beautiful website for one.
Fine.
And I'm just curious if there is maybe something else out there where we have lists of people that we trust, like Chris's project on there, you know, like another Giveth platform, only it's built on Cardano. And these are vetted proposals. You know, be an amazing site to start seeing happen. And then we have, you know, support the communities doing these things. They've got their web page, the way in to the community, and also connected to a directory. Oh man, I thought I only had one problem after listening to you, Chris. You know, the problem being project turning into other platforms for funding. You know, this is the first problem that I saw, and now I see there's other things that we could solve with our community by creating these Giveth type platforms, and adding the transparency there, plus the ADA payments. Okay, big job.
Yeah. We can go a little further here. Oh, Nori, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was wondering if Giveth was the primary crypto link for the project, or are you doing other things aside from that?
So Giveth is the primary crypto link for this project that we're doing here. We'd like to see us engaging with Little Fish in the future. And then something that I don't have any visuals of in action because it's just emerging, but I am a team member of the Blockchain Learning Center. And here in our town, we do have a community center. And in that community center, we would love to get people more educated in the capabilities and affordances that blockchain can have. And so I'll just show you a little image here, if I can. Resume share. Tell me if you're seeing this learning desk here.
Yep.
So the idea here is that we'll have these composable learning spaces, and each module will have a bunch of different components. Like this is like the learning desk module. And so we're going to test this out in our community here, in our community center that we have, is this idea of us renting a blockchain learning center desk that would have a Raspberry Pi with a display. It would have some of the one-pager infographics that are developed. Well, what's this over here? A digital picture frame with C4C? What? So we're looking forward to this being another way that we can get engaged with our community. But what's great is that we have an on-the-ground project that is affiliated in some way with using cryptocurrency for what we're doing. So it's not just an abstract concept. It's like, here's what this can do. Here's these different communities that you can get involved with on the internet. And if you want, start taking the approach of developing your own personal capabilities, working with Web3 tech. And then you could potentially receive cryptocurrency to work on this project with us that we're doing that benefits your community. So it's a nice way to bridge that gap when we're excited to see where this goes.
Amazing.
You know, you brought up that image, but it's like we have this website. Cardano for Climate has this website completely underused. And I'm wondering if we should be starting to think about this as this platform, you know, for the boots on the ground communities coming in, even just to check it out, almost like a voter list, but you know, it's people can go in and check it out, connect with these different projects through the website. I know it's not something that I could possibly take on, but you know, hopefully there's going to be somebody that comes along that's you know, really interested in websites and knowing that this is available to be able to develop more. Yeah.
It's definitely an underutilized resource. Chris, you talked about this morning in another meeting about the layer and how it creates topsoil, and how you're selling that and using that to fund the building of more. Could you go into that a
Yes.
little bit more? Because I think that has a little bit of a tie-in with some of the stuff that Dylan and his crew are doing with the algae stuff that they're doing, and their kind of economic model might apply to things that you're thinking about doing.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for that, Nori. So just to double check, are you seeing this, how are we responding spheres on a slide?
Yep.
All right, great. Okay, so let's go to the Lear Gardens. I mentioned these before. So here's an image, and this is progress that was done in just a few weeks' time here in the desert in the summer. So this is a good example of what's possible with this way of growing. So the idea again is we put wood chips into this raised bed system. We circulate the water through. As you see, there's like any kind of pond system. Like we dug a big pond in our land, but you could use any kind of stock tank or something like that. And then we pump the water to the top. The water drains down and goes back into the pond. And in the process of doing that, along with adding in worms, mycelium, compost, that starts to accelerate the rate in which these wood chips turn into healthy soil. So there's a number of benefits that come with this kind of growing, especially the fact that it uses a low amount of water and is high yield, which is critical here in the desert. And there's a number of other benefits that happen by doing this as well. So here's the existing site. So you can see the aerial view like we looked at before, where we have our 3 beds up and running. We added that pond, like I mentioned, and we've had some community planting parties that have, you saw some of the videos from that. But then right next to us currently is a lot for sale. And just as a sidebar, if you have any friends that have some cash and are looking to contribute to a good cause, I'd like to make the case for why this might be a good cause, especially when we look into this notion of regenerative philanthropy, which is what you're pointing towards, Nori. So with this additional land, we could add another 12 Lear gardens onto the land, plant a bunch of trees, start to do some comprehensive water harvesting, which has a number of benefits associated with it. You can't see these awesome animations I'd show you that shows the arrows moving around to explain the different aspects of the project. But the idea behind it is that the land that we'd like to purchase is going for $26,500. The whole project to do this for year 1, we're estimating around $50,000. But what happens when we get that seed funding, as Melanie pointed out, is that that initial fund would secure the land, would get those 12 Lear gardens started. But then once that happens, that soil that gets produced is what gets sold, and that covers the project expenses moving forward. And it gives a surplus that allows us to create another 12 Lear gardens every single year. So the soil that's being generated becomes the income that we use to reinvest back into the project to cover the expenses. We can't cover it the very first year because we need to buy the land, we need to buy the materials. But once we've done that, then we're not having to ask for funds every single year. This regenerative philanthropy notion of receiving the funds initially and then creating a plan and economic viability that's associated with it means that we don't have to actually keep asking for money over and over again. So yeah, that's a critical point. So thanks for bringing that up. And it's pretty exciting. And I'd be curious to know how this relates to what Dylan's doing at Algae Token as well, because this, I think, is the future. So I'm all ears to hear about how other people are looking at this kind of work.
If I could talk for a second. So yeah, I think it's excellent what you're doing. I watched your video earlier when it just came out and talked to you a little bit about it. It's very good. Our team at the university is split into 2 groups, basically our research team. So one is looking at microbiology, which is mainly soil-based and plant growth. And the other half is algae. So I'm in the algae team, which makes sort of sense. I do see a lot of information regarding soil and what can happen there. And we're doing a lot of research into local bacteria and their effects on plant growth. And the bacteria have a ginormous amount of impact on the actual growth of plants. So what we're looking at doing is sort of promoting the bacteria that are local to the soil, which are beneficial to the plants. And that way you can get your plants to grow better without as much fertilizer. And it's a natural sort of form of growth. And it also helps the soil to rejuvenate. So when you're sort of recultivating the soil and yeah, so there'll be bacteria and things like that that you can put into the soil that will help promote this as well and get it more nutritious for then, you know, growing your crops. So that's something, I'm not a specialist in that, but I can definitely speak to people and get more information from the scientists who are involved in that. I see a great deal of it, and I'm privy to a lot of information, and I can have a look if I can find some journal articles that go through the methodologies and what's actually happening there. So it's something that's, you know, been studied for a while, but we're sort of at the forefront of a few new things in that. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. We're also looking with the algae because we do a great deal of water remediation. We're currently working on a few pretty big projects. So doing that, there's opportunities there for making fertilizers, biochar, and putting back into the soil, as well as feedstocks. And then we look at, you know, more high value products from that. Primarily our main focus is generally on food, but I mean, we go in during research, we do everything. We go from, you know, your water remediation, looking at soil, looking at fertilizers, looking at feedstocks, and just all the way through to the end final products. And there's so many final products we can look at, you know, inner soles for shoes, or even parts for shoes. There's so much, and fuel is also another huge one. But yeah, the cycle system, that's another thing that we're greatly interested in too, because we're currently all set up our farms generally off the grid. So we use solar, but then we can use anaerobic digestion and things like that to produce gas if we need it. And that can also help then break down. We can use the algae as the feedstock for that. And that way we can totally recycle everything and break it down. And then we can look at fermentation for fertilizers and you know, secondary step processing for that. It's a great idea. If you were to add a algae farm, which I know we sort of mentioned, I would suggest at first looking at spirulina. It is the most widely used, and that is generally because it's one of the easiest to grow. It's got very high value. So it could be used a lot there. And I mean, if you have excess there from that, you could start looking at using that as a fertilizer as well, because it will have, you know, your nutrients in it already. And the great deal about, you know, growing the algae there is you won't be sort of over fertilizing. It's all uptake, and you don't need to use potable water. So if there's a water source in the area that you don't need, you know, it's not drinking water, it's not fresh water, but we can generally find an algae to grow in any type of water, but that's when you do need to sort of look at the microbiology of it all and find certain species and sort of organize them. But, you know, spirulina grows in salt water. So if there's salt water around that, you know, isn't really usable for agriculture, you could look at using that. So there's a few benefits there for that. And the beautiful thing about spirulina is, you know, you could basically make like a pool net with a high grade sort of mesh in it, like a 0.34 micron or something, or 34 micron mesh. And you could scoop it through and basically, you know, just pick it up and then dry it somewhere and then move on to what you want to do with it. So there is that possibility for you to do that. It's just, yeah, what you're doing it for. I mean, if it's a community thing, then you don't have that issues of, you know, needing to make profits and be huge and do anything of that. So you can make a sustainable, reasonably sized little farm from that. And, you know, with increasing technology, as I said, you could collect it yourself, or you could look at getting, a small sort of machine that will help with harvesting. I mean, I can talk to you regarding things like that later if you like. That's relative. I mean, everything costs money, but I mean, compared to some of the bigger filtration systems that we look at, which are hundreds of thousands, this is only a couple of thousand, like not much at all, and it'll just be sourcing things like that. But I mean, you'd start with collection, and with like a small size pond, it wouldn't be that difficult, and you just harvest a couple of times a week. You might need some other inputs. I mean, you need the sun, obviously. You need your water source. You might need some CO2. You'd need it sort of mixed as well. But I mean, these are all things that we can talk about later. We're used to assisting people setting these up, so it's not a problem.
Chris, did you mention something about the mine, the soil, and that it was poisoned by the mining trailings?
Yes. Yeah. So you saw on that map how you have all the mine waste, so we call it the mine tailings. Well, that isn't isolated only into that area. So much of it is infiltrated into the ground, and as a result, we have high levels of arsenic, lead, and other dangerous elements that are in our land, and more concentrated in areas like ours that are close to it. And so having those raised beds is critical for us just to keep things safe. But that doesn't mean we couldn't dig a hole, another hole, throw a pond liner over it, and get an algae farm going, which is pretty cool. So
you could also look at something a bit different. You could look at remediating that. So you could look at building a pond, not having a liner, and then letting the algae uptake that arsenic and other forms of minerals. They will eat a lot of it. I would suggest, obviously, then doing some scientific testing on the final product. We've been doing a lot of this lately, and they do uptake, but then you want to make sure that they're not uptaking to a dangerous level, and then it's what you do with that product afterward. So you could look at getting it out of the ground, but then you need to, some of it will be uptaken and sort of like disappear, but most things, it's like a mass balance. You can't sort of destroy matter; it's still there. So you might just be passing on certain things, but that's why you want to do that scientific analysis of that, then, to see how much is being uptake. Is it a safe level, and then what you could do with that. It's just another sort of idea that you could do some hardcore sort of remediation of land. For doing something like that, you probably want to have government support, scientific support of a local university to run through, and scientific analysis. Yeah, but that's all, achievable. So something else to think about there for that.
Yeah, right on. I appreciate that very much.
I've also heard that there are myceliums that will break down. There's somebody locally that's doing an experiment breaking down the arsenic. I think it's arsenic in the cigarette butts, isn't it? But there's a mycelium that will actually feed on that and change it chemically. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think we have some very tiny allies that we are underusing, possibly, whether it's mycelium or bacteria. Who knows what's coming.
That's pretty exciting to think about how we can partner with nature in these healthy ways, right? I think if I could leave us on any note, it would be this Pac-Man image right here. Good old Peter Drucker has this quote, and I've learned the hard way that this is the case, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Really, vision and strategy, when done well, are the emergent properties of culture and connection. And it's us coming together and being together that then informs how we can function together. So I wanted to end on that note, because taking this to heart has accelerated things a lot, and ignoring this has slowed things down quite a bit. So I'm hoping that this is something that'll be beneficial for others to hear as well, because if I would have heard it and taken this seriously, I would have been moving a lot faster with the work that we're doing here. So I want to thank you all very much, and I'm happy to answer any more questions. But I think that's the final note that I want. No, not the final note I want to end on. The moon, La Una. I got to tell you, this has been probably one of the biggest things that has made the difference for the work that I'm doing for my own personal management, like, managing myself and leading myself, and how I do it is working with the lunar cycles. And there's a number of ways that this can be done. We talk about a lot of this in our Discord channel. We go back and forth on ways that we're working with the lunar cycle there. So the regenerative technology community is a small group that formed when we started doing digital campfires. And so this is where we come together to have that being time versus the functioning time, where we tell stories and spend time together in meaningful ways. So I'll put a link to that into this chat here if you want to check out what we're doing there. Yeah, I would encourage you to, if you're at all curious in this idea of seeing how the lunar cycles affect us and how you can work with her in good ways, then I'd encourage you to start doing some experiments. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. I have a question. So you talked about some of the ways you were using crypto to get donations, and Pete brought up a couple of great WordPress plugins to accept donations and stuff. Are there other pain points? Like, can you actually pay people in crypto, or do they need like US dollars? And is that an issue? Are there things that we could work on as a community to help all of this work then?
Yeah, big time. I mean, right now it's kind of a pain in the ass in terms of like having this spreadsheet to manage who's done what, and then we get the funds from our wallet, and then we manually have to go and pay out each person for the single line item that they did, and then we log it back into the spreadsheet. So the receiving the crypto is one thing, but then distributing it out to all the contributors. Later, Dylan. Cheers. Thanks for joining. Distributing it out to the different contributors is the most difficult part. If there was something that could be done to support that aspect of it, and if we keep this like project squad kind of level and scale in mind, then I think that I'd welcome any kind of work that could be done in this regard. So yeah, Nori, I'd say if there was the one thing, it would be the distribution of the tokens after they're received would be the biggest pain point for sure.
Okay, and it sounds like Little Fish may help there, but other up and coming DAO software could also be useful for that. Have you thought about other ways of using blockchain in the projects? Because I know you produce Topsoil, so I know Yoram is a big proponent of traceability and using blockchains to kind of being able to track when something was created and how it was created and have transparency and stuff. Have you thought about any of those kind of applications beyond just donations?
Main one that we're looking at right now is like it's more of the emergent potential of ecosystem service credits. Like if there could be something around the traceability of the growth of and development of healthy soil, and if that could somehow be validated in some meaningful way, then that would be huge for us, because each one of these beds, if we can hook up some sensors to it, or we have different ways that we might be able to extrapolate out the health of the soil, I think there's potential there, but we haven't seen anything come to the fore enough to where we can implement it now. But in the future, I would love to see that we're interacting with like the DSci or the ReSci groups who are interested in citizen science work that's being done, where we could plug some sensors into this thing, have them built into the beds that are then reporting back the information. Those things are really exciting to me. It's just I just don't see at this time that there's anything that's ready to go. But we'd certainly love to play in those ways, you know.
Amazing. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there, and we're right at the ground floor still trying to build these building blocks for DAOs and organizational stuff, and like the basic things like how do we even pay each other? Like I know
Great.
Cardano for Climate is struggling with that too. We have a treasury guild that's helping us out, but we don't have some of the same tools that you see on, say, like Ethereum or the other chains that have functional DAO software. So we're building towards that. But having these use cases and knowing where the pain points are and how it actually works in practice, like you're on the ground and you're doing it and you're paying people, you work through the pain points, but understanding what those pain points are will help the builders among us to like build solutions that will help there. And I think that's
Yes.
a good sensing mechanism to go through.
I'm so bullish on this community and the work that we can do when we share what we're all up to. So thanks for saying that.
What about dynamic NFTs? Because I'm curious about that too, as a way of record keeping. You know, somehow there's some form of documentation at the beginning of the NFT, because I'm wondering about it. Maybe Urban Farmer DApp has something, but following and traceability. I'm trying to figure out ways to track seeds that I collect, you know, and where they've come from, the stories behind them. And yeah, seeing if there's some way of keeping that on the blockchain or intact, rather than just a verbal story that goes along with those seeds.
Interesting. Never heard of that notion. That's really compelling.
Because from my understanding is that NFTs, you can actually add information to them, that they start at some point. And please, anybody that can clear this up for me, you know, my understanding is that you can start at some level of metadata and that you can keep adding on to it. But I don't know that for sure. And I certainly don't understand that. Perfect.
Oh, we can't hear you, Nin, for some reason.
You're some equipment there in between is muting you. You get too many buttons to press. That's still nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, you guys, let's practice lip reading.
Fletcher, you got something?
Yeah, I know there's, so that has to do with whether you leave a policy open or closed, kind of, I think, from the simple portion of it. You can leave it open, and as long as of course, then you're relying on, this is the multiple uses, whoever's holding that policy, maintaining that piece and has access to that can add information to it. And of course, that leaves a record. There's different ways of doing it, I've kind of heard. And if I know a few people who are exploring some of that in a few different ways. But yeah, that's certainly one of its novel ways of interacting with it.
So an open policy, but then again, unless you mint it yourself or create that policy yourself, then you've got to rely on a different service to do the admin for you, basically. And then that maybe that's
you're issuing it, then it would be held by the company. Let's say if they were doing something, issuing it to its, you know, to employees, or if it's cooperative, or if it's, you know, a variety of models or whatever it might be. Yeah.
You mentioned cooperative though. Say that, can you kind of flesh that one out a little
Different
bit?
business models, like whether, you know, cooperatives being a different type of business model than kind of standard LLCs, or yeah, I guess it was just something that came to mind, how could imagine using something like that. I haven't thought deeply about it, but don't tempt me. I could head down that pathway.
Oh, please do, because I know if I headed down, it'd be you'd see me in about 3 years from now, because I'd have to learn all the courses and all the coding and everything else in between, self-taught. Yeah. So you could probably get down that rabbit hole and back much quicker than I could. So
that is the magic word is community. The other people who know how to do some of those other pieces. Yeah.
Hey, mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Got it. Yay.
Awesome. I don't know what happened. Probably Zoom once in a while. Yeah, dynamic NFTs, Melanie, are one where you have open policy and you can update the metadata. However, each time you write on chain, it just consumes transaction fees, right? And the more data you write, the higher transaction fees there are. The good news is Cardano transaction fees are still very, very small. At most, you're gonna be a couple bucks if you're sending like millions and millions of tokens. In this case, if you're updating, hundreds of thousands of NFTs. And hopefully, I don't know how Vaso fork's gonna affect that, but hopefully, when the fees get quite high, then Vaso can reduce those fees for scalability issues. Yeah.
So I've been spending some time in ClickUp and trying to figure out tasks and subtasks and linking things, right? So maybe is there a way to link information instead of adding it to the same NFT? Is there a way, Chris?
Yeah.
Hey, so
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I noticed the time here, and I need to go to a work party. We got another garden bill, so
Okay, get to work, Chris.
All right.
gotta get going.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for
Amazing.
coming tonight, Chris, and sharing what you're up to.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share. Thanks for your time, attention, and care. And I'll see you around later.
Say hi to the
All right.
gang.
Community, I
and,
will.
Yeah, from us.
Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Send our love.
presentation.
Thank you. Will do. And thank you. Peace.
Thanks.
So do you think there's a way to link things? So say, one layer, rather than keeping the same NFT, but this is the stage one of a project or a job or something, and then having a second NFT that would link back to that first one. Is it possible to do that? Or is it more work?
Yes, you can essentially just write let's say that you hosted a video or playlist on YouTube. Let's say even for our proposals, what I do is I actually put YouTube playlists that I can edit and swap out for a more updated version of the pitch video instead of the YouTube link itself. Then it's kind of stuck on that video. So yeah, as long as you have some kind of dynamic link that you can control on your side, then yeah, solid. And Melanie, glad you're using ClickUp. We're using it over here, and the team, is much more effective.
I
with
just
the Excel
I just
spreadsheets.
entered that rabbit hole the last couple days though, so you may not see me for a little while on that one, but I'm hoping it'll do, what I hope it would do, helping us figure out the tasks and making those easy, connecting them somehow to D-work, and then from that D-work, through the Treasury Guild and getting people paid, which would be pretty sweet, showing what we need to have done all those repeatable tasks that come up in a community, but also having an openness for other people to come in and say, hey, I want to do this. So anyways, we'll see. I'm going to go on holidays for a week though. Go visit Nori, maybe some of you else that are at the coast, and then come back fresh in a bit.
Oh yeah, that's probably worth mentioning is in-person meetup here in Victoria, BC. So if you're going to be around next week, let me know and we'll hook you all up.
Probably be there Thursday, maybe Friday. So yeah, that'd be great.
All right. And it was mentioned a couple of times. Oh, sorry, you have something?
Yeah, I was gonna ask Melanie, where are you, Melanie, in the world?
BC, about probably 8 hours away from Nori. It'd be faster to fly, of course, because there's a boat and some traveling in between. Otherwise, maybe an hour and a half by flight, but 8 hours if I'm hopping in the car, and probably about that. So
Bunch of driving and a ferry involved.
Yeah, well, Nori was here this summer and stopped by and met me in person. you know, that was pretty special. So now I got to return the favor. And,
Yeah. That was fun. I met Melanie at the end of a 7,000 kilometer drive. So there's a lot of driving involved. But it's always good to
a
see.
lot of
people
bugs
face
on
to
that
face.
car.
Oh, yeah. So it was mentioned a few times tonight, but the Basel hard fork is coming up on September 22nd. And I was just looking, and the next meetup that we have here is on the 21st. So maybe the topic for next time will be Basel and what it's about, introducing why it's important and what we can get excited about. And any SPOs in the room, maybe we can talk about how that's gone, doing the upgrades and getting ready. But maybe we can swing a little more technical next time and talk about Basel scalability and the things that are coming. But and Zola, I saw you unmuted. Do you have something you wanted to contribute?
Oh yeah, I just wanted you guys talking about BC, about Victoria. I am in Victoria too, and so if Melanie is coming, I want to see if he's gonna see you, Nori. I want to see how we can try to make sure that we're all together. I want to meet Melanie too as well, and Nori. So that'd be great. I know Jeremy. I meet Jeremy all the time. Oh, here he is. So yeah. So I would like to meet Melanie and Nori. That'd be great.
Nice. Yeah. So I think there's at least 4 or 5 of us here in Victoria. So we'll definitely do a face-to-face meetup next week.
Yeah. Then I'll show you my tool too. I bring my tool so you can connect to it and then try to use your cell phone even for 1 minute.
Yeah, we can try your box locally.
Yeah, my box, and then you can try it to see what it has inside, things like education material. So, and maybe when you see it, you'll have ideas how you can put your education stuff that you're putting, like for climate change and other things to put in there, so that when it goes, people have those YouTubes or education material inside or something like that. That'd be great.
Very cool.
Mm.
All right. Very cool. So how are we going to communicate this meeting, Nori? Telegram, email?
We'll put something. Let me think about that for a day and see how to connect with Nori folks. But we all know each other second or third hand, so I'm sure we can do word of mouth too. All right, everybody. Chris had to leave us, so I think we're done with today's presentation. Thanks for coming, everybody. And if you have any ideas for topics that you would love to talk about, feel free to let us know. Jeremy posted a form in chat earlier where we welcome submissions. Let me see if I can paste that link really quick. Oops, I can't. Jeremy, do you have that handy? Oh, I think I have it. Okay. And yeah, so feel free to use that link. And these are also recorded, so we'll upload these. If you're listening on YouTube, we meet on Zoom face-to-face every other Wednesday. So check us out on Meetup. And yeah, I apologize for the time zone weirdness. Meetup doesn't seem to like our time zone, so it's showing some really weird times. So we'll try to get that fixed for next time.
Awesome. Thanks for hosting us, Nori and Jeremy. It's great.
No.
Very good. And I'm so glad you grabbed Chris as well. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us, Sarah. It's really nice to have Japan joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Very good to see you again too. Yeah. At a decent hour too. It's good to see you at a decent hour.
It's great hour. Yeah, I love it.
Perfect. Good.
Excellent.
And Pete too.
Yeah.
This is it is so cool, you know, that we connect around the Pacific Ocean. You know, that's pretty amazing. It's a pretty big place, but this is a good time zone. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night or good day. Good morning, Sarah.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.
See you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.